When a quiet night shift groundskeeper stopped to help the woman everyone else hurried past, she didn't ask for thanks. But what that stranger pressed into her hand days later would change not only her life, but her son's future too. The whir of automated sprinklers and the distant hum of the campus server farm blended with the rhythmic snip of Maria's shears as she trimmed the overgrown jasmine along the main promenade. It was late evening, and the sprawling Innovatech campus glowed with the soft light from office windows where dedicated engineers still toiled. Heads down, earbuds in, a few figures occasionally scurried between buildings, lost in thought. Laptops, energy drinks, and the faint scent of ozone from the server rooms all existed in a world parallel to Maria's. None of it requiring her input, and certainly not her direct engagement. Maria, a black woman, petite but with a wiry strength, wore her faded green Innovatech landscaping overalls like a familiar comfort. The collar was always turned down neatly. Her ID badge, Maria Sanchez, Grounds and Maintenance, was clipped to her pocket. Her dark, tightly coiled hair, streaked with silver, was pulled back in a practical ponytail, often tucked under a wide-brimmed hat during the day, though now, in the cool evening, it was bare. The warm brown of her hands, gloved but showing the ingrained earth from years of nurturing plants, worked with a gentle precision, even if few ever paused to admire the vibrant flower beds or perfectly edged lawns. She didn't mind. Not really. Years of tending to gardens that executives only glimpsed from their office windows had taught her to find satisfaction in the quiet flourishing under her care. To Maria, coaxing life from the soil, creating beauty where others saw only space, was its own reward. Peace. She paused by a newly planted bed of agapanthus near the main research building to check the moisture sensor. As she knelt, a young man in a hoodie, engrossed in his phone, nearly tripped over her discarded trowel, muttering an apology without looking up. Further down the path, a woman in a sharp business suit tossed a crumpled report towards a recycling bin, missing it by a foot. Maria picked it up later and placed it inside. She didn't sigh. She didn't frown. She just kept tending. Then she heard it. A sharp cry, followed by a sickening thud. Not a dropped gadget, but something heavier, more personal. It came from the dimly lit service access stairs leading down to the underground parking near the West Lab. Maria straightened, her attention instantly shifting. A couple of late-shift security guards at the main entrance were deep in conversation, their backs to the sound. A drone delivery whizzed silently overhead, oblivious. No one moved. Maria dropped her shears into her tool caddy and walked quickly toward the stairwell. The metal door groaned as she pulled it open, a gust of cool, damp air hitting her face. The echo of pained gasps reverberated off the concrete. A woman lay sprawled awkwardly on the landing. Her ankle was bent at a horrifying angle. Her tailored blazer was scuffed, and a dark stain was blooming on her light-colored trousers near her knee. A sleek tablet lay shattered beside her, its screen a spiderweb of cracks. She was trying to push herself up, her face contorted in pain, one hand gripping the railing, the other her injured leg. This woman, Evelyn Hayes, had pale skin, now strikingly ashen against her dark, tailored suit, and her blonde hair was disheveled from the fall. Maria said, her voice soft but clear, "Easy now, don't try to move." She moved down the steps, kneeling beside the woman without hesitation. Evelyn's head jerked up. Her blue eyes, wide with shock and pain, met Maria's calm, dark ones. She managed, I'm all right," but her expression told a different story. "No, ma'am, you're not," Maria replied gently. "That ankle doesn't look good at all." The businesswoman's expression tightened. "I can manage. I'll call someone," she said. Maria interrupted, already on it, pulling out her company-issued radio and calmly requesting campus security to dispatch medical aid to the West Lab service stairs. Then she turned back, opening a small, well-used first aid pouch she always kept in her caddy. It wasn't much, but she'd supplemented it with her own supplies. "This might be a little cold," she murmured, carefully cleaning a scrape on the woman's knee with an antiseptic wipe. Evelyn flinched but didn't pull away. There was a grounded competence in Maria's presence, in the gentle efficiency of her brown hands, that was strangely reassuring. "What's your name?" Evelyn asked after a moment, her voice strained. Maria. Maria Sanchez. Evelyn nodded, wincing. Evelyn. Evelyn Hayes. Maria didn't ask for more. She stayed there, her small frame a surprisingly steady presence, until the campus medics arrived. She spoke to Evelyn in low, soothing tones, asking simple questions to keep her conscious and distracted. When they carefully maneuvered Evelyn onto a portable stretcher, Maria stepped back, retrieved the shattered tablet, and gently placed its pieces into Evelyn's dropped handbag. Evelyn caught her eye. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Truly." Maria offered a simple nod. "Take care, Ms. Hayes." The stairwell emptied. The heavy door thudded shut. Out on the promenade, the sprinklers continued their rhythmic dance. Maria returned to her caddy. The jasmine still needed a final trim. Evelyn gasped as Maria gently probed the swelling around her ankle. Her breathing was shallow. The way her foot was turned made Maria's stomach clench. This was serious. "I told you," Evelyn whispered, her voice tight with pain and embarrassment. "I don't need a fuss." Maria didn't react. She'd heard similar sentiments over the years, from important people who equated vulnerability with weakness. She understood the unspoken part. "Not from someone like you." But Maria never took it personally. Of course, Maria replied smoothly, carefully taking a cold pack from her kit. "But let me just make this a little more comfortable while we wait." Her hands moved with an innate gentleness, as if tending to broken limbs was as natural as tending to broken stems. In a way, it was. She'd raised a boisterous son and mended countless scraped knees and minor sprains. "You're very capable," Evelyn observed, a hint of surprise in her voice. Maria gave a small, wry smile, her dark eyes crinkling at the corners. "One son, a dozen neighborhood kids, and a lifetime of plants. You learn to handle things that are delicate or damaged." She didn't elaborate, and Evelyn didn't pry. The stairwell was quiet except for their breathing and the crackle of Maria's radio as security confirmed help was 5 minutes out. Maria noticed Evelyn's hand, resting on her bag, was trembling. Her usually fair skin was now almost translucent under the harsh fluorescent light. "Try to take some slow, deep breaths," Maria advised, her gaze calm and steady. Evelyn nodded, trying to comply. "You work for Innovatech?" Maria asked, trying to distract her. "Something like that," Evelyn said, her voice clipped. Maria smiled faintly. "Well, I'm here most evenings. The coffee in the main hub is terrible after 6 p.m., but the little cafe by the Arboretum has surprisingly good herbal tea." Evelyn looked at her then, truly looked at her, not as a groundskeeper, a background element, but as the black woman who had found her, cared for her with unexpected skill, and was now sharing an insider tip. A flicker of something, shame, perhaps, or dawning respect, crossed Evelyn's face. "I'm Maria," she said again, simply. Evelyn gave a slight nod. "Thank you, Maria." It was more genuine this time. The distant wail of a siren grew closer. Maria stood, her own knees creaking slightly. She looked at Evelyn on the narrow landing. "They'll have a hard time getting the stretcher down here easily." Evelyn's eyes widened. "Wait, what are you?" "Good heavens!" Evelyn exclaimed, instinctively clutching Maria's overall strap. "Just hold on tight," Maria said, her voice calm as she carefully navigated the stairs and emerged into the main access corridor just as the paramedics rushed in with a gurney. Heads turned. The usual late-night quiet of the corridor was broken. A security guard hurried over, looking concerned. A passing programmer paused, bewildered. A black groundskeeper carrying a well-dressed, injured white executive. It was an unusual sight, a stark visual against the sterile backdrop of the tech campus. Maria didn't care. She eased Evelyn onto a bench near the doorway as the paramedics took over. "Keep this elevated," Maria instructed, propping Evelyn's bag under her injured ankle. "They'll take good care of you." Evelyn stared at her, speechless for a moment. Why did you do all this?" Maria paused, considering. "Because I was the only one who heard you fall," she said simply. The medics were efficient. One gave Maria a nod of acknowledgement. She was a familiar, if quiet, presence on campus. Maria stepped back, but didn't leave until Evelyn was secured on the gurney. As they began to wheel her out, Evelyn reached out and lightly touched Maria's arm. She didn't say her name this time, just met Maria's eyes with a look of profound, unspoken gratitude. "Thank you," she repeated, the words imbued with deep sincerity. Maria nodded back. "Get well soon." Then she turned and walked back to her caddy. She picked up her shears, collected the discarded antiseptic wipe wrapper, and headed towards the North Quad. No commendations, no emails, no employee of the month photo by the reflecting pool. Just another late shift, another patch of earth needing care, another person who probably wouldn't remember her name. But Maria didn't mind. Some acts of care didn't need an audience to matter. The scent of freshly turned earth hung in the air as Maria weeded the rose garden near the Zenith Tower 3 days later. Life had resumed its usual cadence. Prune, water, repeat. She hadn't mentioned the incident to anyone. It hadn't seemed like a big deal. Ms. Hayes had probably been treated and was recovering, likely already back to her important business. People in those positions moved in different orbits, and Maria had long accepted her place in the campus ecosystem. Still, something felt a fraction different. It began with a polite good evening, Maria from Mr. Davies, the notoriously curt head of R&D, a man who'd never acknowledged her by name in 5 years unless a sprinkler was malfunctioning near his reserved parking spot. Today, as Maria pushed her cart past his office window, he looked up from his schematics and actually smiled. Maria, surprised, offered a small smile and nod in return. The next evening, a young intern from the AI lab stopped her by the bike racks. "Miss Sanchez?" she said, holding out a thermos. "My team ordered too much artisanal coffee. This is a vanilla latte. Still warm. Would you like it?" Maria looked at the fancy thermos. She usually drank instant coffee from her own battered flask. "Oh, that's very kind." "Thank you," Maria said, a little flustered by the unexpected gesture. Then on Thursday it happened. Her supervisor Ken said, finding her in the small groundskeeper's shed where she was sharpening her tools, "Maria, they want you up in the Zenith Tower, Ms. Carmichael's office." Maria wiped grease from her hands. "Zenith Tower? The director's wing?" Ken confirmed, looking a bit puzzled himself. "Yep." Said the usual indoor plant service is unavailable today. They specifically asked if you could take a look at the atrium plants. Maria paused, her hand on a wrench. In her 15 years at Innovatech, she'd rarely been summoned to the executive suites. That area had its own specialized contractors for the high-maintenance interior landscaping. Still, Maria nodded. "All right, I'm on my way." She took the gleaming, silent elevator up, her work boots feeling out of place on the plush carpeting. The air smelled of expensive air freshener and new technology. She found the atrium, a stunning space with a living wall and several large tropical plants. She was checking the soil moisture of a fiddle-leaf fig when a voice made her straighten. "Maria," she turned. Standing in the doorway of an expansive corner office, leaning lightly on a stylish cane but otherwise looking composed, was Evelyn Hayes. She wore an elegant pantsuit, and the only sign of her ordeal was the cane and a faint air of tiredness. But the expression on her face, the way her blue eyes lit up, was clear, recognition. Evelyn stepped into the atrium. "It's good to see you up and about, Miss Sanchez." Maria managed a small smile, the warm brown of her own face calm. "You too, Ms. Hayes. I didn't expect you'd remember me. I wouldn't forget the woman who carried me out of a dark stairwell when I was at my most vulnerable. And when no one else even noticed," Evelyn said, her voice soft. Maria nodded. "Well, I figured you had more pressing matters." Evelyn's eyes held a thoughtful look. "You know, Maria, when I fell, the worst part wasn't the pain or even the fear. It was the silence. The realization that I could have lain there for hours, and the only people who might have eventually found me were the overnight cleaning crew." Maria didn't know what to say. "Are you very busy?" Evelyn gestured toward her office. Maria glanced at the plants. "Just checking on these." "Well, spare me 5 minutes," Evelyn said. It was phrased as a request, but carried an undertone of gentle authority. Inside the office, the view over the campus and the distant city was breathtaking. Evelyn gestured for Maria to sit, then poured 2 glasses of water from a carafe on her desk. I never had a chance to thank you properly. You did, Ms. Hayes, Maria replied quietly. More than once. Evelyn gave a wry smile. People think innovation happens in labs and boardrooms. Sometimes it's sparked in unexpected places by unexpected people. By noticing what truly needs care. Maria raised an eyebrow. And sometimes with a good pair of shears and strong compost. Evelyn laughed. A genuine, warm sound. For the first time, the distance between the white executive and the black groundskeeper seemed to vanish, replaced by a shared moment of humanity. As Maria rose to leave a few minutes later, feeling the brief, strange interlude was over, Evelyn stopped her. Wait, Maria. She turned back. Evelyn had moved to a polished credenza and retrieved a thick, official-looking envelope. I never properly introduced myself either, Evelyn said, holding out the envelope. I'm Evelyn Hayes, the new Chief Operating Officer for Innovatech Global. This campus is my direct responsibility. The CO? She asked, the words feeling foreign. Just started last week. Evelyn nodded. I was doing a late-night, unofficial walkthrough. Wanted to see the real campus, the one that exists after the presentations are over and the executives go home. I wanted to understand its true pulse. She paused, her gaze direct, meeting Maria's steadily. And in that stairwell, I learned more about the heart of this place from you, Maria, than from any report or meeting. Maria swallowed, still processing. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything yet, Evelyn replied. Open it later. But know this, people with your dedication, your quiet integrity, shouldn't be invisible. Evelyn stepped back. You've already shown me how I want to improve things around here. Maria walked out in a daze, the envelope clutched in her hand. It wasn't until she was back in the familiar clutter of the groundskeeper's shed, the scent of soil and fertilizer comforting her, that she opened it. Inside was a formal letter. The first part was full of gratitude and commendation. But then came the section that made Maria sit down heavily on an overturned bucket. Innovatech was creating a new position, Campus Well-Being and Environmental Integrity Lead. It came with a significant salary increase, an office, and the budget to implement real changes. It wasn't just a promotion, it was a mandate. Tucked inside was another, smaller certificate. A full scholarship grant for her son, Leo, to attend the state university's engineering program he dreamed of, but they could never quite afford. A handwritten note at the bottom from Evelyn read, You said you learned to handle delicate things by caring for your son and plants. Let this help him build a strong future. Maria's hands trembled. Tears welled, not for the job title or the money, but for Leo. Leo, who worked 2 jobs after school, whose old laptop constantly crashed, who sketched brilliant designs on scrap paper. Her dark skin glistened with the tracks of her tears in the dim light of the shed. A choked sob, half-laugh, escaped her. She looked at her worn shears, her muddy boots, the tools of her trade. Campus Well-Being and Environmental Integrity Lead. It sounded grand, but it also felt right. It was what she'd always done, just without the title or the recognition. She folded the letter carefully, tucking it into her overall pocket. For a long moment, she sat there, the scent of earth around her. For the first time in a very long time, Maria Sanchez, a black woman who tended the grounds, felt truly seen. Maria had shown compassion instinctively, care without calculation. She didn't know who Evelyn was, and it wouldn't have mattered. She saw someone hurt, and she helped. And that simple, profound act had sown seeds of change far beyond any garden she'd ever tended. Some of the most powerful growth doesn't happen under bright lights or with grand announcements. It starts in the quiet corners with people who nurture and mend, even when no one is watching. Because true care, especially when offered freely, always finds fertile ground in the right hearts. And sometimes the most unassuming hand is the one that opens every door.